Hello.
Hello! Happy New Year!
Happy
Back.
oh yeah, Happy New Year. Welcome to the very first edition of our Book of Boba Fett live stream music commentary sessions. um, I'm Xanthe or Xanthe. Below me are James and Justin, and
Woo!
this is our third show that we've been going through the music of. I see Jonah. I
Oh,
see Yep.
third series, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we have seven. This is the first of 7 episodes, and very exciting times. Live action. We have live
Oh
action
my
right
gosh.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very
this is
cool.
our first collective live action show that we've talked about together. Obviously, you've been doing all the movies, um, but yeah, this is the first time we've had to and it's also probably the longest episode that we've probably done on one of these shows, right?
Maybe.
I think so. Band Batch episodes were a little shorter, weren't they?
No, no, no. I mean, like, oh, do you mean Bad Batch?
Bad Batch,
Yeah,
sorry. Our
I was
episodes
like,
are
there's
long.
a
Our
show about
episodes
the
are long.
band.
yeah, we haven't had like a 40-minute thing like this that we've had
Yeah,
to
because that
crunch
seems like a
into.
live action thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Fun times. Yes, Blue Pig. We
So
mean
fun.
James meant Padawans. We know you're not younglings.
No. That's the quote from the show. That's what he says when he's in the desert. He goes, "Easy,
Oh,
youngling. I need
oh,
some
oh,
water."
oh.
He says that to
Cool.
the young Tusken Raider when he's trying
That's
to get
right.
water.
Damn, you've
E-
already stumped me with a quote. I already blew it.
well, I just rewatched it. I just thought that was just such a funny thing for him to say easy, and then he just like goes, "I need some water." I just love how he pronounces it. It's awesome.
There were a lot of funny quotes, I will say,
Yeah,
in this episode.
Yeah.
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 I love Tim Morrison. He's just such a character. And I think it's. I mean, I guess we're already talking about the episode, so I guess we're ready to go. But it's he's just such a character, and I find it one of the things that I found going on and personally for me, and then definitely seeing people talk about this online through reviews, etc., is like how we're seeing who Boba Fett is now, and everybody has had it in their head like who he is for the last with how whenever since Empire Strikes Back, every fan had an idea of like this is who Boba Fett, but now we're like seeing now they're deciding to actually take the helmet off and tell us who he is and show us
Mhm.
who what he's like and everything like that. And I saw some review that was like, oh, the thing that that Boba is lost is his mystery, and that was kind of the point, or something like that. And I'm like, I'm not bothered by that at all. But
I
to
have a
me, it's so
question.
great because like Tim Morrison he's not the original, obviously, Boba Fett actor, but he's the original Jango Fett actor. And so now we get to see Tem be the character that he was cast to play, really in reality. So it's like, we get to hear the things he says, this facial expressions. Like, who knew that Boba Fett was like making a face like this, like underneath his helmet every time he hits somebody, right? Because now we're seeing him. Now we're seeing fight with his helmet off. Who knew
Okay, I have
that?
a
Like,
question.
that Boba Fett has been making that face for the last 30 years. Nobody knew that.
I have a
Now we
question.
know.
You said
Yeah.
something at the beginning. You said like we've all had this like fans have had this idea in their head of who Boba Fett is. Like everyone kind of
Could
has
be.
their own. And I'm
Could be. Yeah.
curious from chat and from both of you, did you have like sort of did you ever think about Boba Fett or like have any notions of who Boba Fett was? Because I'm someone who has not. I've really almost
Yeah.
never thought about it. I never really, yeah, I
Totally. I've thought about it a little in a sense, and I might get attacked for this, but that's okay. Boba Fett has always been one of these characters for me that I've never understood the
adoration.
insane admiration and insane hype around the character,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
just merely, and this is my purely my own opinion, just going off of the original movies and the original segments that he appeared in, doesn't do much. But that's just me and my thing. But at the same time, the thought that I have given it was that he was supposed to be this really cool, awesome, legendary bounty hunter. This kind of uh, uh, this badass, if you will,
Yeah.
Mm.
kind of a thing. And but that was always like legend to me, versus what we kind of saw in the original movies. But it's like the Captain Phasma thing for me. It's this
That's a good point,
legendary
Right.
character that keeps getting knocked off screen. But yeah,
I
that's
heard
Yeah.
from someone.
kind of my thought behind it.
I heard from someone who had seen the original trilogy when it came out, like in the 70s and 80s, and they told me, or they said that they had dressed up as Boba Fett for Halloween before even Empire Strikes Back. So like the costumes were coming out
The
even
toy
before
came out.
even before the movie. And
Well, the
like
toy came out right
and
from
the
from
toy.
the Kenner line, and then the holiday special came out
Oh, that's
before
right.
Empire with the cartoon.
Yeah,
I think it's just
for
harder
the
for I
Boba
think
Fett
it's just
cartoon.
harder for those of us who weren't around there because
Yeah, right.
because from what I hear, like the merch rollout was like so much of a part of it too. But
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
For sure. I mean, that's what Boba Fett kind of was. If I, just to say it as like, as bluntly as possible, he's basically a toy, like like an action figure on the screen. He didn't really have like any clear motivations other than I guess money, but from Jabba. But he was really just there to be cool. He's like there to be like a cool bounty hunter. It's not much character exploration, done, and he basically just I'm sure everybody do not mention that movie Blue Pig says about
Do you mean the holiday special?
Um,
Fair.
but yeah, so Boba Fett's interesting, and I saw actually a pretty poignant review about this episode, which was like, basically the brooding. You don't know the man behind the helmet. He's kind of a bounty hunter, and showing that side of Boba Fett. They already made that show, and it's called The Mandalorian. And they've kind of explored that character, which is essentially for the first couple episodes, like Din was somewhat of a Boba Fett clone where he's like too cool for school, never takes his helmet off. Like he's basically what everybody, like not everybody, obviously we want to make sure we're opening up for different opinions, perspectives, but what most people I imagine assumed Boba Fett was like. They assumed he was something like what Din is like for the first couple episodes of the Mandalorian season 1, which is like does his job, he's kind of ruthless and etc. But now they've already made that show, so they kind of have to explore Boba Fett in a different way. And I like what they're doing. I like that Tem, and it kind of mirrors Tem, and he's like an older guy. He's a little quote unquote past his prime in some ways. He's struggling with he's struggling and he's kind of unsure of himself because he's like taking over for Jabba. This is an interesting take on a very a character with a lot of baggage, or a lot of expectations of what people expect him to be, But I agree with you too, Justin. Like I never was like a Boba Fett kid or a Boba Fett, obsessive. I was always more of like a Luke Skywalker kind of guy, So yeah.
Jonah says, I was always someone who thought Boba was what the story told so far. Yeah. Well, yeah, me too.
Well, I just, a lot of us grew up before Clone Wars, and we didn't know anything about him. And so once the Clone Wars, I didn't even watch the Clone Wars until recently, and found out, there's like all these Boba Fett little episodes that tell us a little bit more about him as like a older teenager,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. I like that a lot. So I'm excited to see how that all plays out.
I think
In
the
the
comics
show,
are where I'm missing out the most. I feel
Yeah,
like
I
the Clone
never
Wars still
read any
doesn't
about
say that much. I feel like the Clone War. I feel like from the media that I've seen, I haven't seen Boba Fett that developed yet, and I know that he has a little bit more in the Clone Wars. But I think what it is like, I know pieces of his timeline, and in this episode too, like I know dates that you'd find like in the history textbook of Boba Fett. But what is most difficult for me is that I don't know him, like his feelings and his his motivations, other than like I
Right.
know that everything is like avenging his father's death. I know that, I know
Yeah.
about that, but like I don't know what he misses about his dad, and like
Mhm.
I don't feel
Sure.
it. Like I know it up here, but I don't like feel it yet. And maybe this series will, like maybe
Well, I
this
will
series
say
will
what
show that.
I will say there is a precedent. Like some folks I've heard talking online are taking a little bit of an issue of that now. Like Boba Fett's like this guy that wants to rule with respect, even though he was a quote unquote ruthless bounty hunter for however many years or whatever. I don't find that issue, especially because there is a Clone Wars episode where he was like gonna kill Mace Windu, or I forget what the storyline was, but essentially they like made sure that to highlight like Boba chose not to do whatever the dishonorable thing was. So there's definitely precedent in the Clone Wars that like Boba isn't just like an evil guy that just kills without mercy, etc. Like he's got a code of honor, he's got respect, and I think they did establish that. In what'd you say?
It annoys me, like his code of honor, because I don't it doesn't. I guess what I'm saying is like still those are like bullet points. Okay, he wants to rule with respect. Like to me, that doesn't change his character at all for me. And that's fine. I don't need him to not want to rule with respect. Either one. Like I don't want him to be a flat character, basically. And like I want to know what that means to rule with respect. So far I don't really see like I don't really understand what he means by that, and I don't really understand like what stake he had. Like, is he different than Jabba and Bib? Does he consider himself different? If so, what does he want to change? Why does he want to rule? Why does he want to do this in the first place? Like, what is his? I just want to know what his deal is. And him making so many decisions according to a moral code, to me, doesn't humanize him more. It humanizes him less, because then I'm like, oh, everything is just according to a code or a debt or a promise or whatever. I'm kind of just like, who are you, Boba Fett? Who are you?
Well, that's his issue, right? I guess it's the job of this series is to actually explain it, like and explore that within the series, not like in like, oh, make sure you go watch the Clone Wars and Attack of the Clones, So
I'm very curious how this will happen, and how the music will, support that goal. So far, I don't know. So far, I think it's support. So far, obviously, we're going to talk about the music and stuff. The music is doing something, and we can talk about what it is doing.
I tell you what, Boba Fett really loves jamming out in 11-4. Tell you that.
Yeah.
Tell you that.
Or another thing I was thinking was that these shows, well, wait, I guess we only have, if we compare Bad Batch, like if we compare like Omega's theme in Bad Batch to Boba Fett's theme, and you know how Omega's theme had that meter switch, like it's sort of, I wonder if like the little mixed meter chain, thing is kind of like trendy now in TV scoring. It just makes me wonder.
Can you remind me of Omega's meter?
Okay, it was it's like 4/6, so it's
Has that little 2 in there.
Yeah. Okay. So, chat. What we're talking about is, So, what James referred to as the 11-4, you could also think of. We're just talking about the fact that it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4 the whole time. It's like there is a beat shaved off of one section, maybe, or like basically it's still a pattern in which the like 4-bar the phrase still does repeat, but it's built in. There's a mixed meter built into it, so it repeats with that sort of off place meter. So it does get repetitive in a, like, it's still catchy because it repeats, but it's like there's a little bit of interest in it rhythmically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you all listen to the theme before you watched the episode?
No.
Me neither.
No.
So I was out on the East Coast for the holiday season, and I flew in on Tuesday night from the East Coast, and I got into my house at 2:30 a.m. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to sleep without watching the Book of Boba premiere. So I stayed up for another hour until like 3:30 a.m. like a crazy person. Like watching the Book of Boba on like Tuesday night at 3 a.m. in the morning. So there's no way I was gonna listen to waste any more time to listen to the soundtrack beforehand. So.
Yeah. What about you, Justin?
No, I didn't listen to the I didn't even know the theme was out.
Right.
Okay, I only know because of Twitter. Everyone was like, "It dropped," and I was like,
It dropped.
if someone like added me on Twitter, and I was like, I am not going to listen to that, and I was like a little bit like, oh, why did they have to drop it before the episode? I don't know, but that's like, you know,
That's
to
funny.
me and probably to you both, hearing the theme would have been like a big spoiler. Like
Totally.
I wanted
Yeah.
I wanted to wait to just like watch the episode first.
Did they do that for The Mandalorian? Just out of curiosity, did they like play the theme before, drop the theme on YouTube or something before the show? Or do you think maybe they're
I
doing
don't
this
remember.
because of maybe the success and the hype from The Mandalorian, having such great music coming from that show?
I don't remember either.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that Ludwig
Didn't.
didn't do the rest of the show. Like he only
Yeah.
did the theme, and this is his only contribution to the show, hypothetically. You know, apparently, I'm that you usually do more research on this stuff than I do. But Joe Shirley, right?
Yeah.
He's worked pretty closely with Ludwig on a number of different projects
Yeah,
for the last however long,
listened to one of their scores. It's called Bad Trip. It's a Netflix movie.
right?
Hmm.
That's cool.
Would you like to elaborate?
I almost did, and then I was like, no, I would not.
I know Xanthe just like stops. in mid. Okay. I'm sorry. Are there pronouns they them? Did you
What?
did you just use they when you referred to their score? Well, I just
Yeah,
wanna
because
make
it's
sure.
two of them.
Oh, that's what you meant. They did
Yeah,
a score
it's a
together.
Ludwig and
Okay.
Joseph. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know Ludwig was doing like Netflix movies. That's interesting. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, maybe that has to do with the fact that Ludwig's uh
In high
what
demand.
in high demand, so they wanted to like drop that track, separate.
Oh, I
from,
see what you're
from,
saying. Just to
from
like
the
get the
thing,
hype up.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's interesting. I mean, okay, in the age of streaming, and dropping these things on Disney Plus, it's always so interesting, like what a premiere even means, because some people don't, like the fact. I mean, it's not really a premiere in the same way as it is like some people are going to watch things before the fact. They can always watch things later. I don't know. I think those timings are going to mean less and less as things
No.
especially things start to clutter up the Disney Plus app, because there's just going to be so many series going to be dropping in the next like couple of years. This is going to be their new avenue of dropping things, so
Wait,
it's going to be hard.
A bot
Yeah.
commented in the chat. Should I ban them? What should I do?
Yeah, we should ban them.
Okay.
Are
Are you sure you
Yeah.
want to block all chat comment? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Blue Pig.
Yeah. Spam.
Blue Pig.
Spam freely.
Okay, Blue Pig listened to it first. Also, I want to say that. Okay, Jonah says, I wonder if what Boba is doing now is because of the Tusken Raiders have done to him. Blue Pig says you should talk about the holiday special musical numbers. Okay, Blue Pig, what did you think? Okay, how did it change? How do you think it changed? What was it like having listened to it first? Because I will say that the theme doesn't play out in its entirety until the credits. So like,
Yeah.
I didn't hear it until the credit. Like at the beginning, it kind of does just a teaser of the theme. It doesn't. It doesn't do the whole thing. So let us know in the chat.
Yeah, I'm
was it
curious.
like listening to it.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I wasn't it didn't stick out as much to me as being like maybe if I listened to it first, I'd be like, that doesn't really sound like Boba Fett to me.
What does Boba Fett sound like to you?
To me, like, yeah, go Justin. I'm curious.
No, because I joked about this kind of in the chat, our group chat. If all these Mandalorians have like a single sound to represent them, like where Boba Fett is, it's like ha kind of a thing, and Din is this, the flute thing.
That's a really good point.
Because that's kind of what I noticed between these. I mean, I know we're not distinctly comparing to The Mandalorian, but since it's the same composer, the idea of having these two kind of main themes, both having this kind of signature sample.
Yeah.
I'm just going to call it a sample, whether or not it was, however it was recorded, like the signature sound sample, plus this kind of like because do is the
Yeah, they both.
Mandalorian thing, and where
There were
this one
heartbeats
was
in this episode too.
exactly, and this one is kind of the zoom, the dum, the dum dum dum. This
Yeah.
odd metered kind of. But both feel like they're still calling out of this like Western score,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
spaghetti Western kind of thing.
Kind of like riding. They all sound like horse riding music, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
it's funny.
I will
I
say
love how you.
Jonah did point out that, or there is another Ludwig part, which is at in the end credits of Mandalorian when Boba is taking the throne.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Yeah, and they did that. That part shows
Yeah.
itself in this episode.
See, the thing is,
and also
I didn't think
the war horn, right?
Yeah.
That was his sound in The Mandalorian. That was like his identifying sound in that show, which is interesting that they kind of pivoted. They put a little bit of that in there, but they've really made it like, no, this is his new theme.
Yeah.
Jonah mentioned to me also that the didgeridoo is repeated, is associated with Boba Fett in Mandalorian and in Book of Boba, which is a good catch. I did hear
cool.
a sort of, it reminded me of the Mandalorian recorder, to be honest. Sort of
Sure.
like a...
Well, I like what Justin said, which is like, I feel like from now on, anytime, because they're going to, hypothetically, at least what they said a year ago, before they canceled the Rangers show, what they said a year ago was that they were going to take all these Disney Plus shows and they were going to combine them in like an Avengers Endgame type thing. They were going to do like some type of, maybe the Mandalorian Wars or something, whatever. Which means is we're going to have these characters like continuously interplay with each other. So I think it's cool what you said. Like, we're probably going to have when like Boba Fett now shows up on screen, we're just going to hear a, hey! like the camera will like cut to Boba Fett, and the score will just go, hey! And then
Sabine. Sabine will have their own sound. Everyone will have their own kind of.
Right?
Oh my goodness. Okay, wait.
Great.
There's a lot of good questions here that I want to get to. Okay, so first of all, Jonah said I mainly listened to it first so that I could catch it playing throughout the episode for the first time. Which is funny because it's like, how could you miss it now? Little did you know it was not going to be a subtle theme.
Well, yeah, I guess we didn't really say like, just to backpedal a little bit. Like, you had asked us, Xanthe, what do we think that Boba Fett's theme would have sounded like before we heard it? Like, what do you think? Like, what does Boba Fett sound like? Justin, what did you think to that question? Like, what does Boba Fett? How would have you made it sound if you like before we even knew about this show? What would Boba Fett's themes like? Like, what would the vibe be? Genre, maybe even.
See, it depends on. I don't. It's hard to answer because we've always, again, with this mystery around this character, all we've really known up to this point, for the most part, is that he's this ruthless mercenary kind of a thing.
Right.
So, if without knowing anything else about where the show is going, something sinister, I feel like, where Mandalorian had kind of like triumphant feel to it, because we knew he was in a way the good guy.
Yeah, Boba Fett was always the villain, right? No, he was always classically the villain. So you know what? I think that music that plays in his episode of Visions is what I would imagine, like the metal music,
right? Exactly,
like that, like synth space metal. That's what I think Boba Fett sounded like in my head before I saw the show. And before he appeared in Mandalorian, like appeared as in like that during that episode, The Tragedy, I assumed that he was going to be the villain of The Mandalorian. Like, I thought he was going to be a villainous character in that show. But then he turned into an like when they switched it to all of a sudden Boba is just like hanging out with Mando and everybody, I was like, dude, this is awesome. I did not see this going in this direction, and this is so cool. Boba Fett is just like on board. I was like, we're just going to see Boba Fett for like 3 more episodes. This is amazing, right? So now that he's kind of pivoted into this like hero character. Now he has a theme that I would not have imagined. Like if you had told me
Yeah.
5 years ago, like, and just showed me this piece of music and said, hey, they're going to make a Boba Fett show in 5 years. And this is his theme. I'd be like, whoa, what are they doing with Boba Fett that makes him sound like this? I can hear it when I watch the episode. Like the theme makes sense because he's kind of like this barbarian hero in some ways. He's like this heroic, like, you know, kind of like survivor. And that's what this music sounds like. Somebody that's surviving, that's tough, but still heroic and
Like
has
the,
like, yo,
another defining characteristic of the music in this episode, and I think probably for Boba Fett, is that like that low like chanting vocals, the wordless
Yep.
vocals, the like,
Mhm.
and it's not always. It's I wouldn't even call it chanting. It's not chanty really to me. At least not
No.
always. It's just the like. Is that bass baritone? I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
like
it's
the
like a bass
baritone or
baritone.
whatever.
Yeah.
The
It
low.
goes some up high a little bit sometimes.
It's like
So
the, you know, it's the low pitched voice. It's like the low voices, and but in a different
Right.
way than like Palpatine low voices.
right.
It's like I don't know, Boba with his like man crew
Right.
of sailors or something like.
It actually
Exactly.
makes-
Of sailors.
Some of it
It's
is
so,
some of it
Sailors,
is
yeah.
silly too. Like
fair.
some of it was like when the episode opens, it's like the one that we hear. It's like very slow, and it's like. Oh, let me put it lower. And then it's just. But like very slow. But then in the theme, it's like not only the hey, but also the like. Bum ba bum bum ba bum 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 bum.
Right.
But it's like a cappella group. It like some of it was like it sounded like a Christmas carol at sometimes, where I was like, oh, we're listening to like carolers. It's like
And
cheerful,
those major
like jovial.
chords
Yeah.
too.
I have all
When it goes
these.
into those major chords too, it like gives that that light feeling as opposed to Palpatine's theme, which I don't think has any major chords in it.
Yeah, Palpatine's is a lot like darker than
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, and this starts in like a minor mode, but it goes into some of the like the relative major, if I'm not incorrect, at some points, and which is really which sets it that light heroic sound to it, you know. So
Blue
it's
Pig
Rogers
says
the
the theme
musical.
was forgettable to me, honestly. Same with
It
Mando's
might-
Moff
yeah.
Gideon's. I see. The thing is, I don't think. Well, this is kind of an old message, so I'm not exactly sure which theme Blue Pig is referring to. I don't think the theme is forgettable at all. I think it's very memorable. I personally, whether I like it is another story. Okay, same with Mando's. Moff Gideon's was more memorable and catches my attention. I heard some of the main theme has Maori elements in it. Interesting. I wonder if that's with instrumentation or something else. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone
I
on the
don't know
internet
it.
is already talking about how it sounds like the theme song from that Swedish film.
Yeah.
And then Blue Pig says the part that I was playing there with, and I know it, what is the title of the track? And I don't know the title of the track in Mandalorian. I just like know if you go to the end, like I think if you look on YouTube, like or on Disney Plus, like the end of the Mandalorian finale, that's where I remember hearing it. The thing is,
I
like,
think it's
do
called like Boba Fett's theme or something
Oh,
like that.
really?
I think
Okay.
it's like it's named after Boba Fett. Yeah.
Oh, well, now I'm curious because for me, when I hear that in The Mandalorian, I never once thought that was like going to be associated with Boba Fett, and it
Yeah.
was definitely in this theme. It's similar. It feels related to the. They're both like jaunty sounding, is what I call it. Like
Yeah.
Boba Fett's music is very jaunty and almost like lighthearted. It's almost like humorous to me, even though this is like a diminished chord here.
Yeah.
I don't know, just something about the bounciness of it. It feels like funny. It feels like almost humorous. And I consider the end of The Mandalorian, when Boba Fett and Fennec are like taking the throne, I consider that like I consider that funny. Like that's supposed to be funny, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I took that scene to be
Yeah.
funny. So like that music there, I didn't think that was like going to be a signature Boba Fett thing. I thought it was just like, you know, the composer scoring a funny scene. And so to hear it again in this, interesting. But
Huh.
it begs the
That's
question for
interesting.
me of like, for me, the biggest thing with the music is like, I'm not sure what like genre. I'm not like really sure what tone the show is because of the music,
I
largely.
agree. Yeah, I agree with you. There's some action-y stuff during the action sequences, but other than that, it's kind of it's had a lot of different. I heard a lot of different influence, like kind of all over the place. I mean, we had, uh, of course, the return of Max Rebo, which was fun, and which we'll talk
Woo!
about
Woo!
Oh, yeah.
um, and
Yay,
then
Max
there's
Rebo.
Oh my God!
yes,
This character is the one character that I've been wanting to see on screen since like Disney bought Star Wars. I was like, let's get some freaking Max Rebo, and he's back, and he's jamming, and he's still getting work, and it's wonderful. I was so excited.
a new Max Rebo tune.
Jonah, I think
Well,
I
I don't
agree
know
with
if it's a
you. Or when I first
yeah.
heard it, it sounded like people singing a song about a war. Yeah, I can hear that. I can hear that for sure. I mean, it definitely sounds like an adventure. It sounds like an adventure song of some sort. You know, for
Sure.
some people the
Yeah.
adventure is
Yeah.
war, maybe, but yeah. Um, it sounds it's like a community oriented song too to me. There's it sounds like people singing together, even though it does sound like one overdubbed person. It does sound
Uh,
like it sounds like there's more than it's a sense of it's not just one lone vocalist. It sounds
Mhm.
sort of like, I don't know, sea shanty, like let's rig up the whatever,
You,
like
I wonder now that you're saying this kind of community idea of like a bunch of people singing. I wonder if this theme or this style, this musical style for the theme with the singing and these this kind of 11/4 off kilter feel has anything to do with the Tusken Raiders. Because it seems like a
yeah.
lot of that
uh,
music
what do you
comes
Point.
mean?
comes in when the Tusken Raiders are on screen
Oh my
and
gosh,
Boba Fett,
absolutely.
What
and
His
what
theme,
part?
his theme has only been playing in the episode, like actually as score to the episode in the flashbacks. Like I other than maybe when they're zooming in on his his what do you call it? His back to tank. But I mean, somebody
yeah,
please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not remember hearing his 11/4 theme being played
it
in
was
the
a
episode,
lot.
Well,
and or at least the groove in 11/4. But like
no.
basically the entire flashback parts of any of the Tusken Raider scenes, like almost entirely are scored with the 11/4 groove.
That's what it felt
And,
like to me as well.
and yeah,
I
Yeah,
heard the
likewise.
11/4 groove everywhere, but
I
not
yeah,
with the melody.
but I don't. I'm gonna challenge. I'm
Okay,
gonna
okay.
challenge us to go back and say like I don't think it ever plays in present day.
Oh,
I think that's
so
what I'm saying.
so little of the episode feels like it's in present day.
Yeah, I know
right.
maybe that's
A
why.
lot of it's in that older the past,
Yeah.
but it really right. I
Yeah.
wonder if it
But
has anything.
No, no, no. I
to,
agree. No,
to
I agree with
Justin's
you,
point
but I
about
don't.
it having something to do with the Tuscans, and that's why
Well,
that's what
I
I'm
sort of agree with you. I agree. I think I am getting the fact that it's the adventurous part. Let's look at when he's doing stuff with
Mhm.
it's with the Tuscans, but I don't think the fact that it's with the I don't think it's associated with the Tuscans. I think it's associated with his adventures in the past, or
Okay.
like him embarking
But
on adventures. And
I
it just
guess we're
happens to be that like all of his flashbacks happened to be there. I
I
don't
guess
think
I
that was
guess
like a Tuscan theme or anything.
Yeah,
well, I
which
guess
is why
I guess,
I'm yeah.
yeah,
I'm
we're
sorry,
kind of
which is why
proposing
I'm
like
saying.
maybe.
Yeah, I think we're about to
I
say
guess
the same
I
thing.
guess we're proposing that Xanthe. I guess like Justin's proposing like maybe it is have something
Okay,
to do with the
that's
Tuscans.
something that we should. I mean,
And
yeah,
we're
we
gonna and
keep it
you know
keep our ears out.
we'll see 6 episodes from now.
So can you?
I have it in the back of my head.
I feel
I
like
have it
we
in
have
the
so
back
much
of
to
my
talk
head.
about. This is fun.
I know.
I feel like in the back of my head, this is my prediction.
Okay.
Okay, you can write it down because we haven't done predictions in a while. This is the first episode. Oh my god, we get to do predictions.
Predictions.
So, one of my predictions is I think that maybe this is obvious, but I think like the Tuscans are gonna come in like they're gonna come in like later on in the season and basically just like kind of like the Mandalorians did in that episode of Mandalorian. like in the first season when they all just kind of
Yeah,
helped
I
get him out of
think you're
trouble.
right, and
I think
I've
the
read that.
Tuskens are going to do it. I think the Tuskens going to do that.
Mhm.
And to Justin's point, maybe that has something to do with this community aspect, right? So
You know, since it looks like we're also, if we're adding to, at least maybe this is not a prediction, but a wish predict, since we're going to be just spending a lot of time with the Tusken Raiders, which I also think is really, really cool. I'm a big fan of the Tusken Raiders
Whew.
in the series. So like getting to actually finally like see their community is kind of exciting. I predict / wish we get to hear Tusken Raider music, like their own, whatever that
right?
means.
That
That
would
would
be
be
so
really
cool. Diegetic Tusken Raider music.
I think that'd be awesome.
That would be so sick, dude. Hey,
Okay,
just to throw that out there,
Jonah
Alex on Star Wars Explains on their discussion this week, somebody brought up the idea that the Tusken. I don't know if you're familiar with the comic of the Darth Vader comic, where Darth Vader goes back and just slaughters a huge amount of Tusken Raiders.
Are you
So
talking about
it's
the
so
fact that the tribe is probably different?
well, hold on. So Darth Vader in the comic goes back, kills a bunch of like as he's Darth Vader, goes back and like exacts even more revenge on the Tusken Raiders. And so it's so brutal that there's a tribe of Tusken Raiders that creates Darth Vader as like a legend, a local legend, as like a ghost, like a ghost entity. And what I think is really cool, somebody brought this up on their live stream, like maybe this clan, because a lot of them are like dressed in like black and red.
Right, I've heard
They're
people
like maybe this
people were
is
saying
maybe
like
this
maybe
is
it's
the
Maul or something.
I was gonna say it
But
looks
they're-
like it reminds me a lot of Maul.
But they're saying like maybe this is the tribe that like idolizes Darth Vader, you know, because it's like they're all because that's a thing from the comics, and they're all dressing in black and red, which is pretty cool.
I think that's kind of cool.
I
Jonah
love
answered.
Tusken
Jonah
Raiders
answered Blue
design.
Pig's question here, so I just want to put it up.
Mm.
This thing.
Mm.
Yeah,
Jonah says that's on "Capture the Flag" and the armor from the Mandalorian season 2
Cool.
soundtrack.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I believe, and my man Max Rebo. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, something else, and I want to know if you consider this part of the Tusken part. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Well, first, okay. Oh yeah, there's that flashback to Camino, and music that doesn't show up again after that. There's like music that's sort of like
Right.
sweet music, tender music. Flashback to Camino, to young Boba picking up his father's helmet, and then inside the Sarlacc we don't get the adventure music. So you're right so far. It sort of like reminds me of that episode of the Bad Batch when they're in that cave or whatever, or Omega has to do. Do you know what I mean? Like Omega, there's like that monster. There's like that.
The light.
It's like in their ship maybe, and the light. Wait.
It wasn't in their ship, but they were like going out.
Oh, Omega was by herself, and she had the comlink, something like I don't know. It was early in the season. I don't know. Creatures.
Yeah, well, Hunter got passed out. Remember, Hunter passed out, and then Omega went into that cave because the creature had stolen something from their ship or something like that, right?
Yeah,
and
Right, it was like
there's
power,
that
power
creepy horror sounding
core,
music.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that was here too. Okay, so when Boba punches the hole through the sand, or whatever, to his escape, that's when we start we get the 3 + 3 + 3 + 2 again. Like we do get that, and it's the it reminds me of Mars. It's like. It's like the voices. Da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da, da.
That was really cool.
And it's that. It is. So do you consider that part of what you're saying is maybe Tusken thing? Because it is that meter.
Right.
I'm thinking.
Well, isn't this in a flashback? I mean, this is a flashback.
Oh,
he hasn't met the
yeah.
Raiders yet. Yeah, he hasn't met the Raiders yet.
Yeah. Because I agree that it's with the flashbacks, but I'm
so
not.
Maybe it's like it's not just connected to the Tuscans. Maybe it's a desert, Tatooine desert thing. Desert.
Right.
Welcome to the desert, my friend.
Yeah.
um,
I really like these bowed
Tusken's
percussion in the
body
beginning of the
effects.
episode around then.
Yeah.
There's like this bowed metal sound. It's like this. He's like,
When he's in the Sarlacc.
yeah, it's like it's all those flash. It's like I mean,
Mhm.
it culminates in the Sarlacc scene. You hear it during all the flashbacks during the Attack of the Clones flashbacks.
Yeah,
and
they're like the
finally to
glints of metal. They're like, you know,
yeah,
the kind of horror sound.
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. I like that texture. That texture doesn't really come back anywhere else. It's kind of like remember when
I think that that texture will definitely
this
come.
happened,
It's
and now remember when this happened, and how about this memory, right? That's kind of like
Oh,
I think
yeah.
if we go back to
Yeah.
listen, I think if we go back and listen to The Mandalorian, we probably will hear that a lot.
Yeah,
I
during
mean,
when
that
he's
sounds
doing
kind of a cliche,
the armor, right?
and it's an
It's kinda-
effective one. It's not bad. It's just
Like I only dream when
very-
I'm in my tank, you know.
And then we do get the so many church bells.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, yeah. I love it, dude. I
It's
love
like
it.
the ominous strike, right? It's the church bell.
Okay, and I will say that when the four Tuscans are approaching Boba at the beginning, we don't hear that sort of theme. What we hear is something that I thought they were gonna break out into "Be Prepared" because it's like hum,
Yeah.
hum,
Yes.
hum. It kind of reminded me, like, are the Tuscans in Star Wars, or at least on Tatooine, are they sort of like
The
the
hyenas? Yeah.
or like, being portrayed as sort of the hyenas are in The Lion King, where, they're kind of like grifting off of the land and they're kind of have their own society, but they're not really loved by the greater animal kingdom. So I was like,
There's
Tuscans.
kinda. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Boba is maybe Scar or maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, he
So
does gain.
funny.
Yeah.
Um, I like that the Tuscans are getting so much playtime. You know,
Yeah.
like in all these shows, it's pretty cool.
I don't like the Tuscans in this episode. I'm just gonna go out
No?
and say it. Well,
Well,
it's not
yeah,
that
I
like
mean
the
they are
Tuscans.
ticking
I
prisoners. So.
I was just I was annoyed. I wasn't. I'm not sold on the arc of Boba with the Tuscans, and I know I've seen the complaints. Oh, some people are saying it was that those parts are too long. There's too much of that, and I do agree with that. But I also understand. I don't agree with that. It's just, it's just I felt that way too. That's all I can say. But if
Yeah,
other
sure.
other people didn't feel that way, and that's fine. I'm not here to make a stake and saying, it was definitively too much. Just for me, that storyline didn't do anything for me, or like showing all of that didn't do anything for me. And I've been thinking a lot about like all the different elements that go into play with this. It's not just one thing. It's not just like the acting of the Tuscans. It's not just the script, although I don't think the script is great. I don't think, I think the music is part of it too, but like all the elements together just okay, it just seemed like a story of Boba Fett gaining the trust of the Tuscans and sort of showing, surviving and gaining their respect. And I'm just I'm sort of like, why? And I don't know. I don't think that I don't want that. I'm just sort of like, okay, that's not enough to make me, that doesn't make me see Boba Fett as a more respectable person. It doesn't do anything to advance his character for me. It feels like just to assuage the audience that, don't worry, he got co-signed by the Tuscans, so you don't have to feel guilty the rest of the season. That's what it felt like to me. And of course, I won't say that those are the intentions, but I will say that I didn't feel like, oh wow, I can trust Boba now because he's going to be nice. Like it didn't advance his character to me at all. To me, that's like just bare minimum. Like I didn't need to see that, and it was weird for me that it was like such a big arc of him showing that he can hang with the Tusken Raiders, and it was like, I don't know, like a little bit trying too hard, and especially at the end when he wrangles the beast, I'm just like, this rite of passage that so many storytellers go through, where it's like you have to gain the respect of a different species by killing another one, like, and doing like the Leia maneuver,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like showing and then like carrying the head and everything. I was just like,
Uh-huh.
this is such, I don't know. I just felt like it was a very like manly show to me, like a very masculine, a very
Sure.
like warrior episode. And again, like that, I don't even know why I feel the need to like apologize for saying like, and I don't mind those stories sometimes.
No, you
And
don't.
every
It's not
story
your
has a
vibe.
place. But the thing is, that's like all the stories that I feel like we've been getting in Star Wars. All the shows are
Yeah.
like based on the war heroes and like based on like silent like badasses and everything. And it's I can take another one, but it's worth. I just wanted to
Fair,
point that
fair.
out. That like, okay,
Totally.
Yeah.
we have to watch this ritual again of
Yeah,
killing
we
the
have to go
beast
through
and
that
being
again.
like being strong and doing the thing
Sure.
and being like, yeah, okay.
Accepted into
Just
the
I can't wait till we get to
yeah.
other episodes that hopefully are not all that, and I hope they're not all like that.
I'm
No,
curious though
yeah.
if it's a parallel thing too, because I mean, they want to fill out the story of how did Boba Fett survive? Well, we did that. Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit, right? But
Yeah.
now we got to fill out everything in between to get up to the point of the Mandalorian kind of a thing. Assuming that we're even gonna like the past timeline is gonna like get up to there. But like you said, it's about earning respect. But I'm curious if the episodes in where we're going with this, it's like because that's what he's doing in present day, right? He just assumed the throne, so the throne of Jabba Fett, and it looks like no one respects him.
Did you say
Right.
Jabba
So,
Fett?
Jabba Fett,
That's
his
really
Jabba
funny.
Fett, he is now Jabba Fett,
But
and no one respects him. Which it's kind of like he had to sit and earn the trust of the Tusken Raiders just to like survive, and now he has to also in present day earn the trust of everyone else on Tatooine that he's a serious crime lord. I thought the Major Domo scene. Who played that character?
I don't know, but
I
that
don't
scene was
remember.
probably the worst in my
Yeah,
mind.
that was so awkward, but I was kind of
Yeah.
laughing.
I think
Not
because
trying to throw shit. Yeah,
I
there's
think
been a
it's
couple things with
the
it
music was
between this
awkward.
show and
The music was
between
so awkward.
Yeah, it was really really awkward.
yeah, between this scene, this scene and a couple scenes in The Mandalorian, this is up there with like some of the worst dialogue acting. The other one I can remember was that scene in the one that introduces Cara Dune with that
Oh
waitress.
yeah, episode 4.
Remember
That
that?
goes down
Oh,
as like cheesy. Like that was
remember
the
that?
cheesiest music of Mandalorian season 1. It
Well,
was
yeah,
that.
I wasn't even thinking about the music, but yeah, I think
Oh.
yeah,
See,
but
to me, the music is so
but
tied
Xanthe,
to how I feel about.
Yeah,
I can't like extricate those things, and I think like
Yeah.
if it were different music, I might not have thought that scene were as cheesy. And I think I just think it's like this whole thing in my mind of like, if you swap out one element, would that still work, or would that completely change it? And sometimes it like is maybe a matter of like one element tipping the scale to like too much. And I think that is how the scene with the Major Domo was for me, and I think that's also how the scene with the like creature was for me too, because the creature design is one thing that a lot of people are talking about, but you have to also consider the music in that scene was like funny I don't know, it was like kind of funny.
yeah, it
And
was.
like other aspects, like on its own, I don't think, to me, I wasn't like a huge fan of the creature design, but I'm not like, I don't think it was bad, and I understand that it was probably inspired by Harryhausen and that whole thing. But I think if I consider like that plus the Rancor, which also was influenced by that and like stop motion, the Rancor scene is like comes off as much scarier to me. Not that this creature scene had to be scary, because that's the thing is that I said at the beginning was that it's not that I even think these things are bad. It's just I'm not sure what tone to settle into with it. So I'm not sure if to take it as more lighthearted and funny.
That's
or to
Robert
take
Rodriguez for you. Honestly, that's just a tenet of a lot of his work. Is kind of like that, where it's very different. It's some of his tone is kind
Inconsistent
of all over the
tonally.
place.
Mhm.
Inconsistent, yeah. I particularly really like the characters of that. And
That's fine. Yeah.
and yeah. Well, I will say, I mean, to your point earlier, which is, I think it is important with the format of these shows where, I mean, this is a long form thing. So you might like, we're going to find out. And that's what I'm kind of, what I was alluding to earlier is like, we're going to find out what's important about this Tusken Raider arc. Like it doesn't, same thing, honestly, with the, there's a couple of episodes of Mandalorian that felt that way, where it's like, the frog thing, right? There was a couple of, no, sorry, with Bo-Katan, right? There's a couple episodes where you're just like, what was the point of this episode?
Yeah.
But they always, and in a lot of ways, they come back and you see, because this.
You're right.
This show is not an episodic, like, this episode. It's like, it's a series. It's a season.
No, you're right.
And yeah,
and
so I think
Jonah says,
to
be fair, we've only seen 1/7 of the full story, for sure. And I'm definitely like, I'm not someone who thinks things are filler episodes. To me, that doesn't even make sense. So like, I'm not even saying that this is a filler episode, or I'm just saying for what it was, for the things that I've seen other people excited about. So far, those things have not excited me, which doesn't mean I'm writing off the whole show. Actually, the fact that this show, to me, lowered. I mean, I didn't have any expectations, but it makes me actually more excited for the future ones, because I feel like this episode didn't really tell us like what's happening next. It wasn't like, it didn't leave us like on a. It just, the plot's not like clearly there. And to me, I'm not a plot person. You know this. I don't care. Like, I'm not a plot person anyway. So it makes me even wonder if like each episode is going to be like a completely different time, or like not unrelated, but just put it this way. Like, I don't know what, like if there were a 5-year time jump to the next episode, I would be like, okay. Or if it were just all flashbacks, or I don't know. I don't know what to expect in that. And I do like the sort of linearity of that, even though it was linear in present time. I just feel like so little happened that it can't possibly keep progressing at this pace. It might, but it makes me really curious, because there's only 7 episodes. So maybe it's like really 7 distinct chapters, you know? That makes me very curious.
Yeah, I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know what's gonna happen. It didn't leave a very clear, open prompt for like what comes next, right? Like, we don't really know what's gonna happen. I guess they haven't left a huge amount of lingering questions. Like, I guess they've left who were those assassins and who hired them, right? They left they left like, what's the mayor's deal? Like, he left that on a cliffhanger, like, I wouldn't be surprised if you hear from the mayor. So the mayor has some problem with Boba Fett, right? But the Tusken arc is kind of somewhat resolved at the moment, where it's kind of like, he's kind of like, okay, he's been kind of accepted in some ways. Okay, now where does that go from there, right? But they haven't opened a question in that way. And then the third question they've asked is like, does Max Rebo know any other songs, right?
He knows Jedi Rocks. Come on.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me. I meant Figrin Dan, who's in it. Who is apparently, this is the collab of the century. This is like them crooked vultures when like, Dave Grohl
the cynic in me thinks that they're both just independent contractors, and they've just been like yet another easily listening arrangement of Cantina Band, and still having to play the same damn song, and then they've come together, and they were both just hired for the gig. And so they both show up and see the sheet music. It's like, all right.
Is there a canon name for that song, the Cantina song?
Yeah, it's Mad About Me.
It's Mad About Me?
Is that really what it is?
What? That's so not Star Warsy.
What? And Cantina Band song 2 is like, If Only I Could Let Go and Cry.
Wait, we need song 2.
There's 2 Cantina songs, isn't there?
Yeah.
What's the other song?
No one remembers.
Oh,
yeah, it's the one that's more like
jazzier, yeah.
Okay, it's unacceptable that I don't know the 2.
It is. It truly is. I'm just kidding. Okay, wait. I do want to get to a few comments here, because okay. So Matthew says, I think they want to show how Boba has changed as a character, and the Tusken Raiders is a big part of that. I think we will get more of the Tusken Raiders and Boba next episode. Hopefully we get more Boba.
He's humbled, right? This is his lowest point. I agree with that. I mean, we don't maybe it's hard for us to think about this because but like Boba Fett was like top of his game bounty hunter in the galaxy during you know what I mean? Like he was the one that got Han Solo. You know, he like had the Empire's the biggest like bounty in the galaxy. He was like the most feared bounty hunter, and then he got basically chumped out, swallowed up by a monster, and then beat the hell out of by a bunch of Tusken Raiders. Like it's maybe hard to think about that, but he's definitely at his lowest. So I think that's a good point. Tusken, like maybe we take it for granted, but I think the Tusken Raiders putting him in this place is a big deal for this character.
So all of these things that we've been discussing are like, these are all things that I know on paper.
Yeah.
But I don't feel it yet. Any of it. So like all of those things were like, what's up with the mayor? We don't know who hired the assassins. Those literally were not questions in my head because I don't care about them. I don't care who hired. But if I'm made to care, and that's not to say that I won't be made to care. It's just for me, just seeing a plot thread hanging open to me doesn't activate me wanting to know. For me, what I want to know is actually, why does Boba Fett want to rule? Like that's what I want to know, and I want to know what's the deal with Fennec Shand. Why what does she care about in life? I don't know anything about. I feel like I don't know Fennec, and I see people saying how badass she is and whatever, and I want her to be badass. Don't get me wrong. I think she's more badass so far. I mean, I think the Bad Batch showed us a little bit more of her. Still not that much, but I want to think Fennec Shand is badass, but I do not. For me, the series has not yet. Again, it's only one episode, but so far, I don't know who she is, and I don't think she's badass. I think she's badass because she does cool moves, and she looks really good for her age, and she sets the stage for Boba's one-liners and says the things that Boba can respond to, like, I want to rule with respect, and whatever. Like, she puts his lines on a platter so far, and is, like, his assistant and stuff. And that's not the same level as all the other characters who are now in the helmet, thing in the Disney opening intro, For me, I need them to work a little harder with this like female character that they want to put out there and have people say is so badass. Like give her some story to back that up, other than just the fact that she does really sick moves and she's a great sniper and all this stuff. Like those are things on paper. Like that's like the Pokemon stats card of Fennec Shand. I don't want that. I want to really feel something when something happens to her, and I want to be able to predict what she's going to say to something because I've gotten to know her so well. You know what I mean? Like, and so far I don't know what any of them are going to say, except that Fennec will always kind of say like, well, you should do this. That's not a good idea. And Boba will always say like, but the code and I respect.
Right.
And that's so far, that's what I'll say about that. We have some people calling some slander talentless sellouts.
Uh-oh.
Who are we talking about? Figure and Don.
Freaking Dan
and the modal nodes are one-hit wonders. That's not true. They're two hits.
Yeah, two. They got more songs.
Well, no. Hold on.
They're
a one-hit wonder that has another song that only their true fans really know about. It's like I don't know that.
All right, we have some Jedi
I have a
Rocks.
Star Wars music podcast, and I couldn't even sing that song off the top of my head. I would not call that a two-hit wonder. Okay.
We have some Jedi Rocks best song ever, and we have some agreement. Good. That's good. Filler episodes get a bad rap. I mean, yeah, I think just the word filler is like a misnomer to begin with. And I think that now that word has been introduced, now people think about things as, is it filler or not? And I think if we just hadn't started using that word, or maybe, or just doing like live streams every week, that would have been different. Jonah asks a really good question that I do want to get to. And it's, I don't understand how it's awkward. And I know that Jonah is talking about when I said that the Major Domo music was awkward. I think this is a really great question because obviously that is subjective. So I do want to clarify that. It's awkward to me, and I will explain why in a second. Cutting Room Floor says they both played a bar. I think we're talking about Max and Figure and Dawn. They both played a bar mitzvah after their gig at the Sanctuary. That is honestly musician life. So, yeah. Okay. Do you think Robert Rodriguez is playing the guitar? I have heard that he was.
You mean he's the Biff in the?
I think he was playing guitar in at least one or two of the scenes.
Really? I mean, that would be awesome. He's apparently a
Apparently,
pretty
he
good
was credited in.
guitarist.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I'm all for it. Well, I know that he was definitely the voice of the Trandoshan.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to
Also,
Jonah.
did you notice that Trandoshan came in carrying a Wookiee pelt?
Yes. Oh my god.
Aw.
uh,
Yep.
that thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't like that. I mean, I didn't mind it in the episode. I'm just saying, like in real life, if someone walked up to me with a Wookiee pelt, I would be like, please, you don't have to do that for me. Please don't actively do not do that for me.
I love it. Xanthe, how happy were you when you watched Last Jedi and you saw the whole Fathiers arc? Were you just like completely psyched?
No, I wasn't. Why would I be psyched about that?
Well, because you're like oftentimes on these shows you're very much like bring up what's the word like takes that I don't initially jump to that are very like animal safety and rights forward.
Yeah,
You know,
I am very like
um,
I am very animal rightsy, and care a lot
and I
about like
like it.
sentience
It's
in
great.
Star Wars. But I'm
Yeah.
not like an emotional animal person, so I wasn't like,
Right.
oh yay,
Right.
Father Year's arc. In fact, the Father Year's arc bothers me because it's also kind of half-assed. It doesn't
Yeah.
bother me.
Sure.
It just, I mean, anyway, I'm saying this because I read the Canto Bight book too, which goes more into Father Years, and where it's like sort of like the Tuscan thing to me, where it's like, okay, there's like a character that cares about the Father Years, and she's like a good stable hand and whatever, but at the end of the day, she still wants to ride them too, and I'm like, the whole industry of riding Father Years is.
Yeah. For sure.
You can't be a benevolent like Father Year racer. I mean, you can, but like the whole
Right.
thing is anyway. So
Yeah.
yes and no.
I dig it. Sorry to get off topic there.
It's okay. So the Major Domo music. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Do you?
It's kind of sneaky and bloop bloop bloop
These little
comic-y.
like boom, boom. Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of silly. It's a little bit like, oop, there's some shenanigans afoot.
That's
You know?
exactly that. Yeah. That's
Shifty.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Jonah is the music in the Major Domo scene is. It's reminiscent of the type of music on America's Funniest Home Videos or like on some, I don't know, some like comedy video. Like I feel like, yeah, just some like comedy mashup of like real people making mistakes and like doing silly things. It's like a silly kind of like with lots of dings too. It's the instrumentation for sure. One of it is
Yeah,
like when you hear it had the pizzicato thing for sure, which is like the plunky pits. And pizzicato is like
Plunk,
on
plunk.
yeah. So let me just pull up what that sounds like. My violin's over there, but it almost is better when it's like cheesy sounding. Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, a lot of the sounds sounded kind of like that, even though there were live musicians. Okay, it's like this stuff. It's like this type of stuff. It wasn't this exactly, but there was a lot of like 1-5-1-5 type of like plucky stuff with lots of like bells.
totally.
Ding, ding. And you like when the major domo's like kind of when the interaction is kind of awkward and it's supposed to be kind of funny and look how silly he looks and look how silly this is. It's silly music. And it reminds me of the music, you know, animated kids shows maybe in a silly scene or something like that. That's why it was just confusing for me to hear so much silly music. And I mean silly music, not even compositionally. Like to me, that wasn't even like, oh, the composer's bad. He wrote silly music. To me, that's 100% a director choice to say put something silly there. It wasn't like standout music. It was sort of just like generic silly music, and it was sort of like it made me feel like that's probably how the director wanted us to read the scene. I found it awkward compared to because the episode had a lot of music that was either overtly like going out of its way to be silly like that, or going out of its way to be really like epic and dramatic in a comedic way, where it came off as comedic because there's also this so much silly stuff, with like all the church bells and all the like epic whatever, like things to like really hit you over the head with like how epic it is and how like serious and
I guess
dramatic this
so.
is. That's
I
how it
don't
felt to
know.
me. That combined
No,
with
I
No,
didn't
I know
read.
exactly.
Go ahead, Justin. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, no, I'm interrupting you. You go ahead.
No. I
the
was just gonna
dings
say that
did it.
there was one particular moment that I kind of know what you're talking about, which is when he's putting all of his gear on.
That was a different moment. That was over the top
You
trying to
wouldn't
be
describe
cool.
that as like over the top epic and
No, that was over the top. Show how cool we are, and then it was like the little trap beats, and it was the sub bass going boom, 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 and I was just like, "Hello, kids." Hello, fellow kids.
Yeah, I guess so. I got it. I guess that's true. But I honestly, I was like, maybe it was just a testament to me watching it so late at night, where I was just like more of like my brain was more like, yeah, it's cool. And I was just like, when he started, I literally out loud was like, let's go.
And I'm glad you had that
Bum,
reaction.
bum, boom, 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 banner. It's so over the top. I was like, this is so funny and awesome. I was like, guys, Boba Fett is kind of a dumb character. Like,
Well, that's how we came off.
Yeah.
And there, and if
so, lean into it a little bit, right?
Well, yeah, I think if one leans into it, I think I'm just I'm confused. Again, it's sort of like in the first episode and in the first few episodes, that's probably when I'll settle into the tone of like, because I'm going into this not knowing much about Boba Fett, not really sure what vibe to feel about it, and I'm still not sure. So,
yeah,
and the music didn't give me a clear direction, which is fine. It's just I'm still like, I think maybe this is supposed to be a goofy, like maybe this, this show is rated for kids, I'm sure, and like I think maybe I don't know. I feel like I heard a lot of people saying like Robert Rodriguez is known for being really gritty and stuff, and I don't
some of his stuff,
see
but
that.
He also made Spy Kids,
So. Yes.
That's what I'm saying with Robert Rodriguez is like he goes and makes like Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and then he makes Spy Kids. Like the guy's kind
but
of.
Those are two separate projects. I haven't seen either of them, so I can't really compare how it is within each project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, directors can have range. That's fine.
I'm not saying that he can't. I'm just saying that like he definitely has a large repertoire at his fingertips, and I think that like his movies often explore that as well. Like his movies are kind of really unique because of that. Like Spy Kids is a really unique movie, and it's mostly because it's drawing from such a wide range of, like, it's not just a kids movie, but it kind of is, and it's campy and it's weird, and there's also this like this like Chicano culture that's also has a through line through the whole thing. It's really an interesting movie.
Thinking about Boba Fett as like camp actually makes me understand it better.
Oh yeah, I think there's some of that for sure. Hey, by the way, I'm just gonna hang up and come back in because I'm lagging. You're
like
laggy. Crazy.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see you in a second. So, Tara, okay, Fett had Wookiee scalps on his costume. Oh my gosh,
I missed that.
Yeah, I missed that too. Like, painted on. I'm gonna have to look back at that. Is the Canto Bight book any good? Says Blue Pig. I enjoyed reading it. Put it that way. I enjoyed reading it. I don't know, like, objectively if it's like considered good. But if you're someone who just like wants to know more about Canto Bight, it satisfies. It does the job. And I will say that like after I finished it, this is a little off topic, but after I finished it, I was like, this wasn't very good, but I enjoyed it. But as the year went on, because I finished it like earlier in 2021, as the year went on, I kept referring to it like over and over, and I was like, I'm really glad I read that book. It was actually it was more fun than it was actually pretty fun. So I do recommend it. It's a book of short stories. So okay, anyway. You're back. Looked like braids. Oh, in the original trilogy, hanging.
Right.
Oh, the Wookiees.
But that's
Okay.
also that's a Trandoshan thing, by the way. Like that's in Trandoshan lore, is that they're like, mortal enemies with Wookiees, and they often like want Wookiee
Oh, that's
pelts.
true.
Yeah.
Wookiees are definitely like, yeah. As long as you enjoy it, that's what matters for sure. It's more of a braid. Okay, I'll look out for it. So, oh, okay. So,
Justin's
wow,
gone
everyone.
too.
Okay, okay. I rewatched Return of the Jedi last night, and
Oh, you did?
when when Luke is first talking to Jabba,
Right.
um, in the palace, when he's all black Luke, serious Jedi Luke,
Yeah.
and he's talking to Jabba. There is silly music playing in the background. It's like the like court jester music. Um, and I think, and I was thinking about it like, okay, so both of those scenes, like in the palace, there's like some silly music happening in Return of the Jedi too, and not just Book of Boba. In Return of the Jedi, there's
So,
silly music in the
yeah.
back. But then
Are
I
you
was
talking about like
thinking,
the Baroque, weird
yes,
space Baroque music? Yeah.
yeah. And then I was thinking like, okay, for me, maybe the fact that one was source music and one was score is like what makes the difference for me.
Yeah, for
Is for
sure.
one of them, it's like it is creepy to hear this court jester music as source music where it's playing from the palace. For me, it's different when that music is the score, which is the device to communicate to the audience. That to me, that's different. I definitely would not have minded silly music if it were clearly source music in that scene. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I totally get it. I mean, the scene at the same time was a little. I mean, there was also some weird jokes that made it feel uncharacteristic. That are certain things that felt out of character. There's one bit of this episode that I agree with some people when they were saying this doesn't feel like Boba Fett, and when he goes, I thought, and I'm the crime boss. He's supposed to pay me. I'm just like, homie, you've been like a bounty hunter you've been the top bounty hunter in the galaxy. Why are you saying some dumb stuff like that? That came off as being like, that's a little bit too naive for what they're trying to portray. I understand he's never been in this role before, but the fact that he's acting like a clueless moron at this
Yeah,
moment
I
is
think they just made him look pretty bumbly. And Bill, I think you nailed it. Maybe they're trying to show it's silly seeing these badass characters try to navigate formal conversations and like
Mm-hmm.
the infrastructure. I mean, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right there.
Yeah.
That's all I
But
can
it's just a
say.
little too silly, right? Because he's supposed to be he's also clone, so he's also supposed to be like the top of his game, like both like, he's he's supposed to, what's the word? He's got a lot of history. He's been around the galaxy. He's supposed to know a little bit more than he does, So that music definitely undercuts him.
Yeah. I mean,
So did
or at
anybody
least it just portrays him in a certain way. Again, the thing is, I mean, I kind of wrote some thoughts out in a blog, but like, even since watching it first on Wednesday and then later on throughout the week, I will say, like, as a whole, at least the themes and the things that like bothered me, I will say that like everything has grown on me, which always is the case. Things grow on me,
Yeah.
and I know that going in is like I'm always pretty much going to be more unsure at the beginning. I didn't love the Mandalorian theme when it first came out. I didn't
Right.
dislike it. I was just like, I don't know if I like it yet. And I didn't really realize that I liked it until like the end of season 1 or maybe even season 2, where I was like, yeah, when it came back, it was like that familiar thing that came back. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But at first I was like on the fence.
Yeah. I mean, did any of us prepare anything to quiz each other with or stump each
I
other?
wasn't even thinking. I think I mean, there's stuff I could play, but like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel like as much of a quizzy type of episode since a lot
Yeah.
of these things were thematic and like repeated elements in different places.
I have one little cool thing.
Okay,
Can you tell
nice.
me where this is from? Okay, check it out. Here we go. think?
Ooh, is there any instruments? Other instruments?
Yeah, it's a whole like orchestra thing. But there was specifically something that's happening rhythmically that I thought was really cool. So it's
Can
like,
you all, can you all hear me? I'm laggy, but I know the answer. Can you?
yeah, what do you think, Justin?
This is the scene with the sand assassins, the Tatooine assassins, and
Mm,
and Fennec Shan chasing after them. It's this like 5/16, 5/8
right?
pattern
Isn't
thing
that cool? I
that's
guess
and
I
it's
was thinking
quick
about
too.
that.
It's awesome.
It's quick, and I was noticing I wasn't sure if I would place it as like actually in 5 or whether it's just that it's quintuplets. I was trying to figure out how I would think about it, whether it's in daga daga daga. I guess it could be in 5/16 and just kind of felt in one, right? Because it's like 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5, and it's just 5 quintuplets. Yeah, Blue Pig, you nailed
And
it.
Jonah, they both
Yeah.
nailed it. Yeah.
Which is very it's not very typical. In fact, all the Bad Batch corollaries to this were all in basically like 4 or
4/4, but
16th notes.
syncopated.
Mhm.
Yeah, diggity 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 diggity, like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1, and that's typical, right? Another odd time signature moment here, where it's that whole chase scene is just quintuplets. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Really
Mhm.
cool. And I was like, hey, and to the point that I didn't even notice it. Like usually I notice this stuff because I'm a weird rhythm nerd, and I didn't even notice it until I went and listened back. I was like, oh, that whole scene was in quintuplets. That's really interesting. That's
I
cool.
spaced out during that scene. I watched the episode a few times, then I was like, what happened after for some reason my mind blanked out that what happened plot wise. I'm bad at plot, but
Yeah, for sure.
I was
There's
like,
not a whole lot
he
that
got
happens in
out,
present day in this episode,
and then I
right?
guess oh wait, but wasn't the fight present day?
Yeah,
It
so it's
was.
like basically there's like two things that happen. He holds court in his room, he goes to the restaurant, and then he gets his butt kicked. Those are the three things that happened, basically.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot.
That
But yeah, those are cool. I mean, I thought that chase scene was pretty cool. I like that scene where Fennec realizes that she only needs to keep one of them and kicks one of them off the roof.
I didn't notice that, but like I super blanked out during that scene. I think it's because I think the music made me blank out, and also action scenes make me blank out. Am I still online? I have a thing that says that I'm offline, but it
I
doesn't.
see it.
So.
I see it says you're on the
We're
broadcast,
on
Okay, that's
podcast.
good.
and I hear you.
Okay, good.
This is an especially laggy stream for our video. So much so that Xanthe, you're laggy for me right now.
Yeah.
So
Weird.
who knows?
It was like not laggy at first. It just got
It's
laggy
probably-
like halfway through. But anyway, so Jonah says that if regarding the talking to the major domo that it comes off to me as Boba being human, which he liked. Which
yeah,
are we still?
I do like that.
Yeah. Which again, like that. I'm glad that you feel that way. Um, let's see. Blackout to credits. Oh wait. What did I write in my notes? I wrote church bell. The videos are off, but okay. Church bell toward the end of the episode. There's like again tons of church bells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess or it could be tubular bells. Xanthe. It's
Okay,
not
okay.
necessarily-
Church bell vibes though.
Okay.
The more, yeah. And there is easy. I wrote easy listening guitar vibes are back. What did I mean by that? I said I wrote the chord vibe. It got some chromatic median movement. I think kind of reminds me of '90s adult contemporary music.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Where was it? That was
The end.
Yeah.
Was
I
this
remember
one? He's marching off with the kid sand
Yeah,
guy.
at 33:28.
Yeah, and it's almost like these like almost like Latin American trumpets come in.
It sounds like downtown Disney music.
Yeah, there's like some. There's like a
I liked the
Spanish
chord
player
progression.
that like pops in.
Yeah, and I wonder if that was Robert Rodriguez too.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't know. It was interesting. It was sort of like, okay, all right, we're doing this. I don't know. It just we'll see if it returns, that type of thing. And then it ended with, "Hey, do 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 do,"
Yeah.
to credits.
Bum, 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 bum.
And then we
Can
get
you do that? Can you do that again, Xanthe? Just real quick.
hut do 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 do.
We're gonna make you do that every stream from now.
We're live musicians on
Yes.
this. However, the theme song, I feel like I don't know why the strings at the beginning sounded definitely not. They didn't sound. I don't know. They sounded
Right. And they're
singing.
so exposed too, right?
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
They're like the only thing playing.
Yeah.
And they don't sound particular. I mean, I listen. I don't want to. If they're real musicians playing these, I don't want to like. I just
no,
like whatever, however they were recorded or
I mean,
arranged.
I saw the credits. Like, I know a lot of the people that were playing on it.
They sound
like,
kind of cheap. It sounds a little cheap, doesn't it?
it sounds super
a
cheap,
little-
which I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
fair to say that. I mean, it sounds cheap. It sounds fake. I don't. Even if it were recorded by live musicians, I would never. That's obviously not a musician problem. That's a mixing thing. But it was like, it sounded literally. I'm turning on my like toy piano, like literally putting on the strings preset. It sounded like this.
Yeah, it really does. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that did put. But I like the theme a lot, other than the timbre
Yeah.
and sound quality of the strings.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the only thing I don't like about it. Honestly.
And I think the timbre of the voices, like to me, the thing I didn't like the theme at first, or like
Yeah.
it was sort of like how I felt about Village Bride, where I was like, people are gonna like this. I get that this is catchy. I understand. I think it's catchy too. I just don't
Man,
personally like
I
it.
love that tune so much.
And
Oh man.
and yeah, I know.
Thanks for the reminder. I'm
I'm not a good audience
after
for this type of theme where I'm like, and I think it's definitely like personal bias I have, and I'll just say it right out, like the personal bias, it's completely irrational. Like what I'm saying, it's not because it's bad music. It's just literally because I think I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to say, for me, like I feel like I can make those themes in my sleep. I don't know. That's like the easiest. It's like a very easy style for me. And so it makes me, so I feel this like weird composer ego. Come on, where I'm like, that's what they did.
All right.
That's what it is.
Okay. Then I think Xanthe just said something extremely cocky. So let's hold them to it. So I say that Xanthe needs to do now a live stream where we watch you
Literally just listen to my Battle of the Heroes cover. It sounds like that. Like, and,
I think
and
we
it
need.
makes
No,
me,
I'm
like,
going to challenge you. We're going to have you. We're going to wake you. We want you to do a live stream where you wake up in the middle of it. You said in your sleep. So we're going to wake you up at like 4 a.m. Okay. And we're just going to make you jump onto like Ableton or something. We're going to make you make us a theme. Here's content. Let's go. Does anyone?
And that's all I'm saying is like, I actually do, like, once I get through the filter of my reaction of that's what it is, like, then I can, I guess, see more clearly about it. Except it's not really clearly, because I also do have thoughts about like when some things are scored and it's like, it's different that's a theme song, so it's got to be repetitive and everything. But then my head kicks in and I heard that like Swedish, song that it was probably inspired by, but we don't know for sure, but whatever. And that solidified like what actually bothered me about it, which was definitely not the song structure or the composition of it at all. It was just that it sounds so polished. It sounds so, we're in a studio, we're going to make something that sounds reminiscent of folk music, but we're going to make it really clean. So the voices are very clean, even though it's kind of like primal. It's like, it's very clean still. It's all perfectly quantized in time. The intonation is all perfect. Even the violins, when it's like it has it's not a comment on the composition. It's a comment on the recording of it and the way that it sounds. And it sounds like a fake version of something that could sound really badass and primal and like real and whatever. And I just think it sounds really studio made. That's all.
Which is interesting that you say that, because with it being studio made, I hear what you mean about it all sounding perfect. It almost, my problem with, again, is going exactly with what you're saying. It's not the composition, it's the timbre and the arrangement for me. It almost sounds lazy to me.
Yeah, it's lazy. It sounds like cut and paste.
It's the voices.
And
The
the
voices
voices.
sound so lazy to me. It really sounds like whether or not this is exactly how it's done, or how it
Sounds
was
like
done. It
song is
sounds
due
like the same
tomorrow. I better overdub myself a bunch of
same
times.
person. Oh, how did that theme go again? Oh, it went like this. Da 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 da. Okay, record. And
Such a good
that
point.
was it. It's like, okay,
Well,
here it is. Here's your theme. It's gonna grow on me. I know it's gonna grow
It
on me, but it
already
was
has
almost like
grown on me. It already has
it,
grown
it
on me.
has. But the first time hearing it, the one at the very end, throughout the show, it was like, okay, I get it. The we hear the themes, the motifs, but at the very end, when all the voices came in, it was almost a moment of, oh, okay, this is what it's gonna be.
That's when I was like, this is a
yeah,
Christmas Carol.
let's
Bum,
let's
bum, 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 bum,
you know,
bum, bum. Which is,
it's so
again,
true.
fine. It sounded like also like, and it sounded like classical people in a studio also just trying to like be not classical.
mm,
Sure. That's a good point. Hey, I want to challenge. I want to ask the chat something regarding it feeling "quote unquote"
mhm,
lazy, like you said, Justin. I'm curious. Like, I have the sneaking suspicion. I swear, maybe this is like a Mandela effect kind of thing. I swear they announced a couple months ago that like Ludwig Göransson was like scoring this show. Like, I thought that they announced that
mhm,
it was going to actually score it, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they had announced that he was doing the theme, but
Mm.
I feel like the announcement of Joe Shirley scoring this show was very recent. I think they announced it like the day before it came out, or maybe even the day it came out. Which in back of my head is like, did they? Was this a change in plan? Like, did that? Like, was this like a last minute thing where like Ludwig was going to score this thing, and then they were like, he like maybe took other work or did something different, and then Joe Shirley came in. I don't want to start that quote unquote rumor or anything. Like, I just
Yeah,
would
yeah.
love some confirmation on it because it seemed like the news that Joe Shirley was scoring this came very late in the game, and it's on like usually who scores a show like way ahead of time, and again, I would love some confirmation from the chat or from anyone watching this later in the comments, like if you could pull up that news story. I swear I read it. I swear that I read that
Mm.
they announced like on like Hollywood a
mhm.
Reporter or Entertainment Weekly or some major publication was like Ludwig Göransson is scoring the Book of Boba Fett, and they have since it's been changed. So to me, it's like maybe Justin they're like, again, this is a rumor, and I'm just gonna this is a joke I'm about to make, but maybe they were like Ludwig Göransson was gonna score it, and they're like, then he dropped out, and they're like, well, at least make a theme for us, please. And then he like, and then he just like quickly like, was like, oh, okay,
It's
here you go, here you go.
or the
Well,
file.
if
It's
I
like,
were
well, we got
him
the
and I
last demo he
again,
sent.
this is all this is all
All
we're
speculation.
joking. We're joking
We're
here. If I
joking.
were Ludwig and I had to bow out, I would have been like I would have felt kind of guilty and been like I'm so sorry I have to back out. But I will do the theme. Like I feel
I'll
like
do the
it could
theme.
have come from him.
And then it's
All
like Ludwig is
speculation.
like, it's like 2 a.m. the night before it's due. He's like, what was that
Oh.
like that Swedish television show that I
Oh,
remember
okay.
from when
Yeah.
okay, I'm
I
just
don't
Oh
kidding.
I
I'm
don't
no.
think
just
that
kidding.
I don't think
I'm
that's what
just
happened.
kidding. I'm making a joke. I'm kidding. Okay.
But that is interesting. I mean, maybe some of the like musical inconsistencies that I thought confused me were like a personnel change. Like
Mhm.
maybe that was some of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so curious if there was personnel change or whether this was always the plan. Which is,
Mm.
I think
I
Joe
feel like
Shirley
Joseph
sounds like
Shirley
he's a
was working on it regardless. I think he also work
yeah,
on the Mandalorian with him, like because he works
yeah,
under him. And I heard
yeah.
that I don't know where I heard this, so I don't have a source for it. But I did hear that Ludwig Göransson was not like really super hands on for all of Mandalorian season 2.
Oh, really? I didn't
Mhm.
know that. Okay.
I'm not
So,
positive, but I have heard that, and I mean we all know that when composers score stuff, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're hands on the whole time. So it is,
right.
yeah, it's not possible. It's not blasphemous to even to consider that because
Sure.
that is what
Sure.
happens a lot of the time.
Yeah. And so I think it's probably likely that this show is still being scored right now, and like probably still being edited right now. Like it's probably the finale probably has not been finished or scored, or kind of like what the Kiners were doing with Bad Batch. They were kind of scoring it as it was being premiered each week. So I think it's not unlikely that that's
Well,
the case for this show
they were
too.
ahead. They weren't like
Would you say? Would you
they
say?
were ahead. They weren't. They weren't like
Ahead?
episode to episode. Like it's
No, of course not. But I just
Oh,
mean
okay.
like I think it's likely that
scoring
the
always
show
comes
is
last.
Of course, but it's not always that things are scored like as the show is being aired each week. It's not always that. I mean, lots of times the show is scored before the first episode premieres.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But this is probably being scored as we speak. So anyway, I would love some clarification on like
Just
what
the news.
what the news was, because I swear to God, the original plan was Ludwig was going to score this whole thing. So, and I'm wondering if Ludwig's going to do the Mandalorian, season 3. Still, I imagine he is.
Mm-hmm.
That's like his baby in terms of Star Wars, but it also might be maybe he's moving on to other
Maybe
things.
it's a coat. Maybe it's. I don't know.
Who
But
knows?
the thing is,
Who knows?
he already gave. I feel like what he already gave to Mandalorian is enough. Like because the theme.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
I feel like here's the thing with Mandalorian and this, and I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, this sounds cheaper than Mandalorian, or like this doesn't live up to Mandalorian or whatever. To me, this is my thought is like I wasn't that impressed with the Mandalorian score. I liked it, but
Yeah.
the strength of the Mandalorian score was not in the scoring of it; it's in the distinct songs.
Yeah,
For
the
the
themes are
characters.
powerful themes for
So
sure.
it's just a
Like, they're
different
very-
type of. So like that's what
Earworms,
Ludwig
for sure.
Göransson is really good at. Yeah, is making
Yeah.
those like those hit songs and whatever themes, you can call them themes, but I mean also just the encapsulated like they're, since that is like peppers the rest of the season, like he already created the themes. It's not like
Yeah.
his plain underscore has always been the highlight. It's not like the same thing as other composers where sometimes like their underscore is like really delightful in its orchestration and just the way that it like does stuff.
Sure.
With Göransson, his score for The Mandalorian has always felt like okay, whatever. And this awesome theme came in, and that's
Yeah.
his. And so I feel like I would be fine if he didn't score The Mandalorian again because he already wrote the themes.
Sure. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
And they're good. Like he's good at that. Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think this theme is going to grow on a lot of people. I think, and I think again, it's just going to be so much fun to like hypothetically in the future, every time you see Boba Fett, just get a little hey!
Echo.
It's gonna be like hey,
like a church bell. Bing! Hey!
hey. Well, Cad Bane also has the church bell.
I wonder
Oh,
what
yeah,
they're going to
it's
do
like-
with Ahsoka's theme for her show. Like, I know that they're obviously going to keep her theme, but maybe they'll make it
don't
more
know.
epic or whatever
I think
for her show.
Ahsoka's.
So,
Well, we're not talking about Ahsoka's theme. I think Ahsoka's theme is pretty forgettable.
well, so much so that it
I
appeared
couldn't comment off the top of my head.
in Star Wars Visions and in La Pinocho, and nobody heard it except
yeah.
for me.
I say this. Yeah. I've watched all.
I'm not a
videos,
huge
and I've listened to
Ahsoka
all
theme
of the
fan either.
Soundtrack. I think maybe it's because it's so slow and it doesn't.
There's,
go
I
anywhere.
think people that really love Ahsoka
I mean, it's
really
just
love the
hard
theme, probably
to
because
make
they
a
love
good
the
theme.
character,
It's
you know?
really hard to write a good theme. If you
I mean,
don't have the whole
Xanthe can
production
do it in
elements
their
with it.
sleep.
No,
Xanthe
I didn't
can
say
do it
that. I'm
in
saying
their-
like the
I'm
like
just
stuff that
kidding.
sounds like
I'm just
folk, like whatever, like that. I'm a string player. That's like
I'm just
you
kidding.
do the
I'm
open
just making fun of
strings,
you.
like the
Open
whatever.
strings,
You know, I
sure.
used to be a fiddler. You know, it's that sort of thing.
Yeah. I get you.
I don't know. All right. Well, thanks everyone for sharing your thoughts. Like
Thanks,
honestly, I
everybody.
think this was a good one. We got to do a chant every stream now. Maybe that's how we should go. Well, we'll be back next week with chapter 2, and I
Yes,
look
we
forward
will.
to it. Okay. All right. Here's our outro.
Hey!
Hey!
Hey!